Halloween is over and we have now discarded our perfectly edible pumpkins into the trash or the compost, but very few of us have actually eaten them. I mean, what a waste. And now it's time to turn our thoughts to Christmas. And what sort of Christmas tree do we get to stand in the corner of our living room for about 3 weeks before we discard that also? I know you can't eat Christmas trees. It's Christmas! And Christmas wouldn't be the same without a Christmas tree. I know this. I'm not moralising. Is that even a word? On whether or not you should actually have a tree, but trying to give you information on the best tree to have. My daughter would never forgive me, and trust me, she wouldn't. So I'm going to get a Christmas tree. But what is the best option? A plastic tree? A real tree? A real tree with roots? A real tree without roots? Stick around and find out. And do make sure you stick around for this week's mailbag, where Doris both imparts some seasonal wisdom and reads out this week's message from Harold, who has a unique idea on how to solve climate breakdown.
That's a deep state scam.
But seriously, if you are looking at buying a tree this year, the answer may surprise you. It surprised me, and I'm going to give you some real numbers on the best option to choose this Christmas or holiday season, as you like to say in America. Which I've always thought is a bit funny, since a holiday is, an extended period of leisure and recreation. Yet in America, you get like 1 day off work for Christmas Day and then 1 more day for New Year's Day. I mean, it's hardly a bloody holiday season, is it? But anyway, let's get on with it. I actually put out a video last year on this very same subject, which you can see by clicking here. And whilst this video has exactly the same facts, I'm hoping that this one will be easier to watch. The other one's a bit painful. Anyway, Christmas trees are a big business, Almost 100 million households in the USA put up a Christmas tree each year. And in Europe, that's around 200 million trees, of which roughly 80 million are real and 220 million are fake trees. So, which is the best and why? Let's start with fake, artificial or plastic trees.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
The average carbon footprint of producing an artificial tree is around 40 kilos of CO2. And for the purpose of this, we're going to say that the tree lasts you 10 years. Last time I put out this video, a lot of people actually messaged me saying they kept theirs for 20 years. And that's great. And a lot of people do. In particular, the sort of people who are watching this video. So whilst it is really great and commendable that you do that, it is certainly not proof that everyone does it. So we're using 10 years because it is easy maths, or math, as you say in America, not because it is true. The real average number is closer to 7 years, by the way. So 10 years at 40 kilos of CO2 is 4 kilos of CO2 per year. And then what you have to remember that since artificial trees are almost impossible to recycle because they're made of different sorts of plastic, that is centuries on this planet as landfill and forever microplastics. And really, when you are looking at the bigger picture, this is a huge, huge consideration. So let's stack that up against a real tree without roots, grown and sourced locally. That's important.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart...
A 6-foot real tree will have absorbed around 20 kilos of CO2 from the atmosphere just in the growing, and it is then replaced each year with more trees, which makes it essentially sustainable. The carbon footprint really comes from the disposal of the tree, and here you have 2 choices. And again, this is important. If you put the tree into landfill, it really is worth checking with your local authority here as to what they do if you give it to your bin men. The CO2 produced will be around 16 kilos. So this means that your Christmas tree is carbon negative by 4 kilos, beating the fake tree by 8 kilos of CO2 every year. But there is more. It depends how you dispose of it. So bizarrely, if you burn your Christmas tree, mulch it or compost it, your CO2 emissions are about 4 kilos per tree, making you a carbon angel by pulling out of the atmosphere 16 kilos of CO2 every Christmas. However, and this really is worth pointing out, When you buy your live Christmas tree, the chances are it is going to come in about 25 grams of plastic netting, you know the stuff, which is going to add 0.2 kilos of CO2 into the atmosphere and become microplastics for centuries to come. So keep that in mind. And the other really important fact here is where your tree is actually grown, or how far you have to travel in your family car to get it, probably more importantly. The carbon footprint of driving your family car on a 20-mile round trip to pick up your Christmas tree is going to be about 10 kilos of CO2, or around 0.5 kilos a mile. The third way is to hire a live tree with roots. Again, you want to make sure this is sourced and grown locally. If the tree is being transported miles to get to you and miles back, you can see that you will quickly negate the CO2 benefit of this method. So, in conclusion, and I cannot stress this first point strongly enough, if you already have an artificial tree, keep it. Keep it for as long as you possibly can. But if you don't, and you are looking to buy a Christmas tree this year, the best thing you can do for the environment is to buy a locally grown and a locally sourced real tree, either with or without roots, locally grown and locally sourced. And the other thing that you can do is to be aware that Christmas, in terms of carbon footprint, is one of the worst times of the year, unless you're William Shatner or a millionaire flying into space for 10 minutes. Take a look at the video here. The average additional carbon footprint for each adult in the UK over Christmas is 280 kilos of CO2, made up primarily from, in no particular order, wasted food, extra travel, unwanted gifts, fairy lights, and Christmas cards. I am not going to ask anyone to not travel for Christmas. It's a family time. And of course, for a lot of people, Christmas cards are still massively important. But for the other things, maybe stick with low wattage LED lights. Try not to buy shit for people that they don't or may not want. About 20% of gifts never get used, get thrown away. I cover this here. And try and plan your eating so that you don't waste food. Another video on that one here. And please do have a wonderful low CO2 Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart.
And if you found this video interesting, informative, fun, helpful, irritating, please do share it. Share it with your friends, which you can do on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, LinkedIn, or anywhere really. And please do also subscribe to my channel, and by hitting the little bell button, you'll also get a notification every time I put out a new video, so you won't need to miss a thing. And this is all entirely free. And please don't forget to hit the like button. It's strangely pleasurable.
And now it's time for Angry People's postbag with Doris.
Welcome back to the Angry People's postbag, where this week Doris reads out a message from Harold. But first, I think Doris has some profound wisdom to impart.
I do?
This should be good.
I think you've got to stop asking people if they believe in climate change and start asking them if they understand it. That's science, not Santa Claus.
Wow, Doris, did you come up with that yourself? It's pretty good. Anyway, let's read this week's message, which is one of the many I got from my Insulate Britain video of a few weeks ago. It is my most disliked video on YouTube. More people have disliked it, hit the dislike button than they have the like button. It might be because it's shit, I don't know. But I think what it is, I think a lot of people who have looked at it have only watched the first 10 seconds where I appear to take the piss out of Insulate Britain. And I'm not. I just probably got in there with the humour too early. I'm absolutely well behind what they do. I don't necessarily agree with the way they're going about it, but I really do believe in their cause. So if you are one of those people who hated that video without watching it, then maybe you should watch it again. Anyway, here we go. Can we have this week's message, please, Doris?
I think that the problem is people are just too big, ain't they? If the average person was 1 foot tall, we would require far less space and resources, less food, smaller cars, smaller homes and buildings requiring much less heating and cooling. Think small!
I didn't know you were going to read out that one. That's brilliant. That is an honest to God's real message. Anyway, thank you, Harold. Thank you, Doris. And thank you for watching this far. I'm not doing it with these on. I'm not going to wear them. No chance.